All right, hello and welcome back. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite system and network attacker. And in today's video, we're going to be going through Wazuh or Wazuh. I think I like calling it Wazuh better. Wazuh is a free open source enterprise ready security monitoring solution for threat detection and integrity monitoring. This is a part of the endpoint security monitoring pathway for the SOC level 1 pathway of tryhackme. So endpoint security monitoring module of SOC level 1 pathway. And we are on the last step of this, the last room, which is the Wazuh room. And yeah, we are going to jump into it. This is actually a free room, which means anybody can do this through tryhackme for free without a paid subscription or anything like that. Although their paid subscription is actually very affordable, and if you use the link in the description below, it'll give you an extra $5 off. So that is it. One quick note: if you learn anything from this video, if you learn anything from my channel, if you find it useful at all, or if you're entertained in whatever way, it would mean the world to me if you could like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment. All of those things help the YouTube algorithm find our channel and help us grow so that we can expand the community and help more people like yourself get information about cybersecurity analysis and ethical hacking. And if you turn on the notification bell, obviously you'll get notified the next time a video comes out. And if you're studying to become a security analyst, or if you're starting to become a ethical hacker, then all of these videos will be very useful to you as well. So it's a win-win situation. And without further ado, let's go into the introduction of the room. The introduction of Wazuh is like this. So we're going to be using the Wazuh EDR software solution. We'll be learning what an EDR is and why they are useful, where an EDR like Wazuh is used, accessing Wazuh, navigating Wazuh, learning about Wazuh rules and alerts, digesting logs to view specific events on devices, including Linux and Windows, and how we can extend Wazuh using plugins and the API. And if we understand what an EDR solutions are exactly, which is endpoint detection and response, which is a series of tools and applications that monitor devices for activity that could indicate a threat or security breach. These tools and applications have features that include auditing for vulnerabilities, proactive monitoring, visualizing complex data, and recording a device's normal operating behavior to help detect anomalies. So to establish that baseline so that you can detect anomalies. In 2015 is when it was created, and it's an open source free available EDR. It can be used in a lot of different environments, and it operates on a management and agent module. Simply a device is dedicated to running Wazuh, which is the manager where Wazuh operates, and the agent where it's responsible to managing agents installed on the device so that you would want to monitor. So you have the manager, and then you have the individual agents that are going to be on the different endpoints. So that's basically what it kind of looks like, a visual representation of this, right? So our first series of questions for the introduction, usually introductions don't have questions, but the first question is, when was it released? And that is 2015. What is the term that Wazuh calls a device that is being monitored for suspicious activity? That would be the agent. And for the device managing devices, that would be the manager. So we have achieved the introduction, and we're done with the introduction. Let's jump into what's required to deploy the Wazuh server. This is pretty straightforward. In this particular case, all we need to do is just press this start machine button, and it takes about, I would say, a minute to start up here. And when we connect to the network, we can deploy the Wazuh management server that's attached to this. However, typically you would need to actually install this on your own machine. So it is a little bit more complex when you want to install it on your own machine. If you load the management too early, it'll say that Kibana server is not ready yet. So we'll wait a few minutes before we do that. And we're just going to wait until this full thing is done. And it's this piece right here that will actually populate and give us an IP address. And once it's started, these are our login credentials. and we'll be able to get into the Wazuh server, and we're going to select global talent and refer to the animated GIF, whatever, and we're going to be working inside of the global talent portion of Wazuh. The questions in this task in this room will expect data to be stored on this management server, so it's vital that you're able to connect to it before continuing. So I will make sure that we're all good, and the IP address is already loaded. So I'll make sure that we're all good before continuing and moving on to the rest of these tasks, so on and so forth. So, all right, while this 5 minutes that we gotta wait kind of continues to load, I'm just gonna read through this portion for Wazuh Agents. And so as we've established, these are the devices that record events and the processes of a system. They monitor the processes and events that take place on a device, such as authentication and user management, and agents will offload these logs to a designated collector for processing, such as the Wazuh manager, right? So in order for Wazuh to be populated, agents need to be installed onto the devices to log such events. So Wazuh can guide you through the agent deployment process, provided so you fill out some prerequisites such as the operating system, the address bar of the Wazuh server that the agent should send logs to, and it can either be a DNS or an IP address, and what group the agent will be under, and you can sort this through a lot of different groups. So this is kind of what it looks like. You would click on Wazuh, click on Agents, and then deploy a new agent, and then once we navigate to that, we're going to choose the operating system that it's going to be on, the address of its the Wazuh agent specifically, and so it could be wazuh.thm, for example. You can predefine the Wazuh server with the enrollment.dns app setting, and then you can assign the agent to a group and install and enroll the agent. And in order for that to work, we need to run this command on a host with an agent already installed, we need to run this command to enroll the Wazuh agent. If you run it on something that's already installed, then what it's going to do is just going to upgrade the agent package without enrolling the agent. So to enroll, we need to look at the Wazuh documentation, but this is basically the command. And the way that it is written from the very, very top, we can see that it's actually a Windows command, because invoke web request is a PowerShell command. And so if we wanted to do it on Debian or Debian, Ubuntu, we would choose the architecture. Same thing for the address and the group assignment, but then the only thing that changes is the command changes from invoke web request to a curl command, and essentially does the same thing. So we just want to make sure that we're on this thing. I feel like it's still not fully ready. I'm going to try it. We'll try it and see if it actually loads. And I feel like it still hasn't been a full 5 minutes yet, but we'll see. And then we're going to go to the Agents tab and go to Wazuh Agents. How many agents do we have in our server to manage, and what is the status of the agents by this server? So for this, I actually really do need this thing to actually fully load. So now I'm going to just rest here, I guess, and give it a few minutes more so that it can finalize and populate. And then from here, we'll answer the questions and go into the rest of them. Okay, so what I just learned is that you can't actually load it on your own machine unless you are connected to the VPN of tryhackme. So what I did, I just started the attack box, which is it's like a blue button that shows up at the top of the screen that says Start Attack Box. And then so you click on that, and this takes about 2 minutes to load. And then inside this, there is a browser, so a Firefox browser, and then you just open up the Firefox browser. And from there, we can go into this IP address that is the login for Kibana Wazuh, right? So from here, now I need to actually get the login information one more time and log into this. And then from that, we should be able to run the rest of our exercises. So here we go. All right, we are logged in to our Wazuh application. It is now loading the Elastic for us. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to go to Agents. So it was, you click on this thing right here, and we could just go to Agents or the overview, and let's see, it says it right on the screen. So I mean, we can literally just see that there are 2 agents right on the screen. So that was going to be our first answer. And then if we click on the agents, it'll load the actual agents themselves. And the status of the agents, if we kind of zoom in here, we can see that they're both disconnected. And then if you scroll down to the bottom of the screen right here, we can see some more details about the agents. So the agent 01, THM domain controller, the IP addresses, and OS systems, so on and so forth. So just to make this a little bit more user-friendly, I'm actually going to open this up in a full screen, and then I'm just going to have my questions be on my second monitor here, and then we'll go through everything basically in the full screen view because it just seems a little bit easier. And then even at the bottom right here, we have that their status is disconnected. So the answer for the status of our agents is going to be that they're disconnected. So the next section is going to be the Wazuh vulnerability assessment and security events. And I'll just shrink this down and we can move on into vulnerability assessment and security events. All right, so vulnerability assessment is a module that is a powerful tool that can be used to periodically scan an agent's operating system for installed applications and their version numbers. Once you have this information, it sends it back to the Wazuh server and compares it against the database of common vulnerabilities and exposures. To discover potential vulnerabilities, for example, the agent in the screenshot below has a version of Vim, which is a text editor inside the command line, that is vulnerable to CVE 2019-12735. And so it shows it right here, and this is the information right here, and it says vulnerability severity. It is a high vulnerability severity, and that's the vulnerability number. And this is just some information about, what is it, the vulnerability references, the vulnerability rationale, and so on and so forth, right? So that is useful information to have, and it'll perform a full scan when the Wazuh agent is first installed on a device and must be configured to run at set intervals afterwards. So by default, it's set to run every 5 minutes when enabled, like this. So vulnerability detector, it is not enabled currently, but the interval would be 5 minutes. So you would turn the enabled into yes, and then it will run at every 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. So it's capable of testing an agent configuration against certain rule sets to check for compliance. However, out of the box, it's arguably sensitive. So this Linux host is running the Wazuh agent. There have been a total of 769 events occurring that the system performs as part of its daily maintenance, and these frequent actions such as removing files are often detected as a security event. These events and the related severities are determined by the Wazuh rule sets, which is something that we'll come to explore. We can analyze these events individually by clicking on the drop down, and you can sort events based on various factors such as the timestamp, tactics, so on and so forth. So we are connected to this, so we can move on, and we're going to go to the Agents tab, Wazuh Agents, like so, and then select the agent named Agent 001, and how many security event alerts have been generated by Agent 001. We'll need to make sure that the time range includes the 11th of March 2022. So we are on the Agents tab right here. We're going to go to Agent 001, and it includes March 11, 2022. Last kept alive is March 11, 2022. And so right now it says 113 failed events. And what was the question? The question was not, was it failed events or how many security events? So we're looking for security events altogether. And so event count evolution, the pass fail total checks is 192. So I'm going to guess that it's 192. Registry date is March 11th. The last kept alive is March 11th. So the thing that we want to do is we want to do, I guess I'll just do last year entirely just to see, make sure all the data is all good. So, I mean, it seems that the number is going to be 192. That might be security events in general, but then there's 113 that were failed. So it could be either of those two numbers. So we'll start with 192, and that's not it. So 113 should be it. That's not it either. So, okay, so we're looking for security events. That's interesting. I thought that maybe it would be a little bit more oh, you know what? My bad. You see, there's something called security events. So we click on security events first, and security events is going to pop up. It says nothing. There's nothing here. So for the time range that we have, so let's do show dates a year ago until now. All right, so I basically modified the timeline right here. I clicked on the actual time thing and I went to absolute and just went all the way back to March 2022 and clicked on March 4th because we want to include March 11th in there. And then I did from then until now. And then I click refresh and it gave us the number, which is 196 total. And that is indeed the right answer. So we got that part done. So we're all good with this. And now we can move on to the next step, which is going to be the Wazuh policy auditing. And I'm just going to refresh the page just so all of our answers show up, and there it is. And so here we go. Wazuh policy auditing. Wazuh is capable of auditing and monitoring an agent's configuration whilst proactively recording event logs. When the Wazuh agent is installed, an audit is performed where a metric is given using multiple frameworks and legislations, such as NIST and MITRE and general data protection, all that stuff. So for example, agent DC01 scores against MITRE, NIST, and SCA. This is the scores. And this seems to be on the general tab, I guess. Yeah, it seems to be on the general tab. It has its compliance, right? A MITRE right here, and top tactics, so on and so forth. And then what else do we got? SCA, which is right down here. And that is basically it. I don't know where this is MITRE, SCA, and then it's for NIST. I want to see where the NIST one is. But there's compliance. There's this little drop down right here that allows you to change that, and we'll just test all of that up. So these frameworks are outlined in the pen testing fundamentals, and I think we already did videos on that, so you're more than welcome to search for those and find them. Wazuh presents a board illustrated of the logs where we can get the visualizations to break it down, and we can do this for the same agent that we were just on, which is agent 001. In this example, they're doing DC01, and the benchmark for this domain controller running on a Windows server. This is what it looks like, and so we're going to answer the questions here. So it says navigate to the modules by clicking Wazuh, and then modules, and then policy monitoring. And so we're going to do that. So we're going to go Wazuh modules policy monitoring, and that's all we have to do for this task. So let's now move into the second portion of it, which is going to be monitoring logons with Wazuh. Wazuh's security event monitor is capable to actively record both successful and unsuccessful authentication attempts. The rule, with an aid of 5,710, detects attempted connections that are unsuccessful for the SSH protocol. And we could look at this animation for further information right here. So it'll say the MITRE technique was brute force. Tactic, credential access, the full log is right here. The location of it is over there. And it kind of shows us all of the details on it under the table itself, right? So it gives you that information. The alert was created because someone tried to log on to the agent at this IP with the user cmnatic, which does not exist. And we have the alert of it over here. This is kind of just an overview. So you have the agent IP, agent name, the description of the rule, the MITRE technique that was used, the MITRE ID, and the rule ID, and then the location of the log. And so that's kind of basically it, right? Then we have for reference, this is what it would look like if we were to look at it in the command line. So it's stored in a specific file on the Wazuh management server, which is going to be in this place if we're running Linux, which we are actually running Linux. And we can use the commands such as grep or nano to search through it. So if we do sudo less this whole thing, which brings us essentially the top of the file, it'll show you what it looks like. And this is, it's a general log file, so you can kind of see nothing crazy. But login session opened. It's kind of an important thing to notice over here. And then looking at the GIF one more time below, it says Windows logon success is the rule description for this. Valid accounts is the rule, or the MITRE, I think that was the MITRE technique or something. But we scroll down with this thing, and we have the rule description as it says, and then you have it goes a little bit further down, and it goes the MITRE technique, which is valid accounts, and it goes even further down, and it's going to show you the location and everything else. This is what it looks like if the number of Windows agents and alerts triggered to show how many times a user has logged on. In this case, it narrows down to the logon events of 285 to 79, right? So it goes from a total of 285 events that had shown, and it brings it down to 89. And so you add filter and then type logon, and it says, what is it? Which one did they choose? With event logon, I guess, and exists. So they said that's event logon exists, and it shows a total of 79 out of the 285. So now that we are here, we're going to go to Wazuh Management Administration to check out the rest of it. So let's actually check ours out, but ours doesn't really seem to have anything. So if we go to the events under this, yeah, there's nothing under here either. So now we're going to go to Wazuh Management and Administration. And did they say what part of administration? No, it just says administration. And I would have to choose a specific thing. So let's do administration rules. And then from here we can see what else that they show us. But it seems that we should be able to click on administration, but I couldn't do that. So anyways, now we are going to move on to collecting Windows logs with Wazuh. All sorts of actions and events are captured and recorded on a Windows OS. This includes authentication attempts, networking connections, files that were accessed, the behaviors of the application, so on and so forth. And it's all stored in the Windows event log using Sysmon. And we just did a video on Sysmon, the system monitor. We can use the Wazuh agent to aggregate these events recorded by Sysmon for processing to the Wazuh manager. So this is kind of like the first experience that we're having with something that can run logs that were generated outside of the event viewer, right? That's available inside of Windows. So we'll need to configure both the Wazuh agent and the Sysmon application. The Sysmon rules uses rules that are made in XML formatting. For example, in the XML snippet below, we're telling Sysmon to monitor for the event of the PowerShell process starting. So Sysmon schema version 3.0, whatever, and then you have the process creation. So it contains PowerShell in it in the image, and then the event ID 2, 3, and 4. So file creation, network connection, reserved for Sysmon status, and then ID 5, process ended, ID 6, so on and so forth. So all of these things are IDs that are native to Sysmon, and it shows a bunch of different things, but the one that we're most interested in is the one that is with PowerShell, right? And so that one is going to, it just says image condition contains PowerShell, and command, the process create includes something that has PowerShell. So basically saying it started PowerShell. That's what all of that says. To instruct Sysmon to do this, we need to execute the Sysmon application and provide the aforementioned configuration file like so. So sysmon.exe, accept the licensing, and detect PowerShell XML is going to be the specific rule set that it's going to use. And that's available in the file that was on this Windows machine. So this is what it looks like inside the command prompt. And so, they went inside the Sysmon directory, and there was nothing in it, it seems. Inside the Sysmon directory, they did dir, and it shows you the contents of the Sysmon directory. And so we have the actual executable, 64 executable, and then we have the XML file for detecting PowerShell. And so Sysmon accept licensing, and I detect PowerShell, and it will now do that. And so this is what it will look like once it actually is using the configuration file. This is what the output looks like. And then it starts, right? So it's loading the configuration file, does all its things that it's got to do, and it starts. So we can verify that it has accepted the config file by navigating to the event viewer and searching for sysmon like so. And so this is another glimpse of the event viewer. We did an entire video on this, so you should be pretty familiar with this. If you have not seen it, definitely go watch the video on event viewer. And so under application service logs, Microsoft, and it will take us to that as we get under sysmon, right? There's a lot of stuff under the Microsoft applications, under Windows, and then it just lists this whole list of things, and then you click on sysmon and then the operational, and it gives you the log itself. And these are the items inside of that log, the events that showed up. We can also launch a PowerShell prompt on the Windows server and return to the event viewer. We can record, we can see a record of this PowerShell prompt being opened within the event viewer. So it's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to detect PowerShell being open. So when you open PowerShell, there should be a new item that says, hey, process created, right? There was a new thing that was just created. The process has been opened up, and then it gives you the details of that right below it. And we need to configure the Wazuh agent now on this particular Windows server to instruct it to send these events to the management server. So to do so, we need to open Wazuh, the agent file located at Program Files, OSEC Agent, and then OSEC Configuration. And this is what it looks like inside a wonderful notepad file. And then we're just going to include the following snippet, which is going to be the operational sysmon location for Windows. And that's it. And you do log format event channel, and then we just add this. It seems to be that we just add it at the bottom, or do we add it at the top? Where is it added specifically? So this is the beginning of it, OSEG configuration, and then it's sysmon analysis. So as long as it's just in there somewhere, it's going to work. I don't think it needs to be beginning, end, or whatever, as long as it's in there somewhere and it has its own section. So you can kind of see the formatting of this, where there's the log analysis, locate file, sysmon analysis, so on and so forth. Once we update the config file, we are going to need to restart the Wazuh agent. And in this instance, we're restarting the operating system just to make sure that everything's all good. So they're just basically restarting the computer altogether. And once this is done, we need to tell the Wazuh management server to add sysmon as a rule to visualize these events. And this can be done by adding an XML file, local rule located inside of this place for OSEC, etc rules, and local rules XML. And this is configuring the Wazuh server to ingress the sysmon events. And so this is what that would look like, group name, so on and so forth. You're more than welcome to pause the screen if you want to break this piece of code down. And so we'll need to restart the Wazuh management server for this to apply. Once done, we can refer back to the management server and notice that data has been retrieved from an agent. So to answer the questions of this section, what is the name of the tool that we can use to monitor system events? And that is called sysmon. And what standard application on Windows do these system events get recorded to? And that is the event viewer. And that, just like that, we have answered all of the questions for this particular task. And it didn't really require us to use the Wazuh application. It's kind of disappointing, but hopefully we'll get some good stuff over there. So now we're gonna talk about collecting Linux logs with Wazuh. Capturing logs from a Linux agent is a simple process similar to capturing events from a Windows agent. So it shouldn't be that crazy. That shouldn't be that different, honestly. In this task, we're going to be monitoring the logs of Apache 2 web server. To begin, we can configure the log collector service on a Linux server running the Wazuh agent. Wazuh comes with many rules that enable Wazuh to analyze log files, and they can be found in var osec root rules. So very simple. And some common applications are the Docker, the file transfer protocol, WordPress, SQL Server, Mongo database, firewall, and a lot more. There's about 900 things more. However, you can always do this by making your own rules. And in this task, Wazuh will digest Apache 2 logs using that specific config file. And this rule set can analyze Apache 2 logs for warnings and error messages like this, right? We will need to insert this into the Wazuh agent. that is sending logs to the Wazuh management server configuration file located in this location. And this is it. This is the specific piece that says, hey, analyze Apache. And we have the location and the log format. And that's pretty much it, right? So nothing crazy. The question here is, what is the full file path to the rules located on the Wazuh management server? And this is going to be our full file path. That's like, it's a hard phrase to say. Say it fast 3 times. Full file path. Full file. Blah. Whatever. Okay. Moving on. Now we're going to do some auditing commands on Linux with Wazuh. Since the machine that we're actually on, this machine right here, is a Linux machine, we're going to learn some good things about auditing commands with Linux. Wazuh utilizes the, I really love saying Wazuh. That's kind of, I love this app just because of its name. It's pretty amazing. And I bet you're not going to forget this app ever just because of the way that it's been named. Wazuh utilizes the Audit-D package that can be installed on Wazuh Agents running on Ubuntu Debian and CentOS. In this task, we're going to be looking at Audit-T on an Ubuntu system, which is what we got. And it monitors the system for certain actions and events and will write this to a log file. So we can use the log collector module to read this log file and send it to the management server. First, we'll need to install Audit-T package and the Audit-T plugin. This may be installed on the system already on the attack box. Probably it's already there. So let's install it to just make sure, and you just do sudo apt-get install yada yada yada, and enable this service to run correctly as well as on boot. So you're going to do enable audit service and start audit service. We will need to configure to create a rule for the commands and events, and in this task we're going to be telling it to monitor for any commands executed as root, which is probably a good thing to monitor. And you can extend this to monitor commands such as tcp dump and netcat, or catting files such as etc password, which are all hallmarks of a breach, which is very true. If somebody's trying to look at your etc password file, that means they're trying to get a list of all of your users on your machine. And as of course the etc shadow file, all of this is very, very dangerous. So Audit-D rules are located in the following directory. We'll be adding our rules manually. For this task, we will need to open this file and append our rule ourselves. First, let's edit the file using sudo nano and appending a exit always yada 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 to the very end of it. So it's going to be, what is that, at the very end of the file, like that. We're going to append it to the very end of the file. And we will now need to inform audits of this new rule. So we're going to run this command and to now read the new rule. And then let's configure the system that is running a Wazuh agent, and we'll monitor these events on, and we're going to be monitoring a Linux host in this case. So in our previous task, we'll need to configure the Wazuh agent to detect the new log file that is generated by audit by doing this thing and adding audit to the log configuration file at the bottom like so, which is going to be this thing. And we're going to add this to the bottom of our OSEC configuration file. Which application do we use on Linux to monitor events such as command execution? And so that would be Audit-D. And what is the full path and file name for where the aforementioned application stores rules? And this is the path file name, right? It's probably this thing actually. The audit rules is where we're going. So that's where it's going to be our path file name. And we're going to paste that in here. And that's all good. So very good. I do want to run the commands of that exercise though, just to kind of get used to this entire environment and make it a little bit more interactive instead of just reading a bunch of things. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we have installed the Audit-D and Audis-PD plugins. So there we go, and that should be running. And they said that it might already be installed, so this could be the case, but it seems like it's actually doing the installation, so that's always good. And we might need to do this for a later task anyways. So we're gonna run this, and it's almost done reading the database. And then the next step of this is going to be to enable the audit service, and then to start the audit service that it can run on boot. So we're going to give this a couple of seconds, and then when that's done, we'll run the rest of the commands. All right, we got that. So now let's do sudo systemctl enable audit d.service, and that's that, and sudo systemctl start audit d.service. There we go. So we got that. And now we need to configure it so that we have that rule added to it. They're located inside the audit rules under etc audit rules, etc. So now we're going to go sudo nano, and nano is our wonderful file editor, audit rules.d/audit.rules. And now we're in here, and we need to add to the bottom of our file the new rule set. And I could probably just copy and paste this real quick just to make life easier for us. Copy and paste. And there's our new rule. And so the way that we save it is Control O, and it's going to ask, yes, do you want to do that? And we Control X, and we're out of there. So now we have modified our rule set, our audit rules. So now we need to inform audits of this new rule. So we're going to run the command to inform that we have this new rule, right? So sudo audit ctl r etc audit rules d, and then audit rules. Wow, look at that. Okay, so no rules enabled, failure, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. I feel like that worked. Let me just make sure that I use the right command. Audit ctl r etc audit rules.d audit rules. Yeah, that was the right command. Okay, so we're good with that. And last thing that we were supposed to do is configure the system that is running a Wazuh agent that we want to monitor these events. And we're going to be doing this in Linux. So the specific thing that we're doing is the OSEC configuration file. And we're going to run another sudo nano, but this time we are going to go into the OSEC configuration file, which is going to be in OSEC var OSEC etc and then osec.conf. And then we open this thing up, and I feel like this should already have stuff in it. So maybe I used the wrong thing. So now I'm just going to literally copy paste this command because I want to be in the right place. That's the thing. We're going to do that. Sudo starts with an S, buddy. There we go. Okay, I guess it's an empty file. So we're going to now copy the overall rule, and we're going to paste it in here, and that will be done like so. So now we have it, and there is our new rule. And so Control O to write it out, and Control X to exit out. Saving, but answering no will discard changes. Save, yes, I do want to save this. Error writing, no such file or directory. Okay, well, I mean, write it. What do you mean? Why would you have a problem writing it? So the problem seems to be that there's no such file or directory. So let's go into the var file, and then let's see if we can go into the OSEC file. And there is no such file or directory. Huh. So I guess what we got to do in this case is make one. So I'm just going to make a directory called OSEC, and I'll actually do a sudo command to give ourselves sudo permission. And there's that. And now we are going to go into OSEC, and then we are going to go and create a sudo etc, make directory etc, and now we're going to go into etc, and then we're going to do sudo nano osec.conf. There we go. And so now I'm going to paste this mofo in here and write it, and that should be perfectly fine. Yes. And now we have our OSEC configuration file. And if we go back a few levels, actually we need to go back to this place. And now we have all of that. So, okay, we're good. Okay, so now we have our audit configuration file. And I mean, that's pretty much the last of the series of commands that was there. So from here, we can actually move on to the rest of this stuff, which is the Wazuh API. So let's get into that. Alrighty, so Wazuh API using our own client. The management server features a rich and extensive API to allow the Wazuh management server to be interacted with using the command line. Because the management server requires authentication, we must first authenticate our client. We're going to be using a Linux machine to curl the installed, to interact with the Wazuh management server API. First, we need to authenticate ourselves by providing a valid set of credentials, which will be done using all of this right here. So once we're authenticated, the Wazuh management server will give us a token similar to a session that we will need to provide for further interaction. We can do this, we can store this token as an environment variable using the snippet below and replacing the Wazuh management server IP with the actual IP address. That is our specific IP at the top, the 124.122. And that's going to be what we're going to do right here. And we're going to save it as a variable called token. And then let's confirm that we have authenticated OK and have been given token by a Wazuh management server. And I need to know what to actually search to get the first authentication though, so that we can get that token. So then we can use the standard HTTP request methods such as get, post, put, and delete by providing the relevant option after an X. The X get would, for example, be the command. And so curl k x get, and then it's going to get this, and then H authorization bearer token, and it's going to get our token variable. For example, we're going to use the API to list some statistics and important information about the management server, including what services are being monitored. So we would run this xget HTTP on the IP, port 55,000, manager, configuration, pretty equals true, meaning we want it to be output in a pretty manner. And then we want the ion global and then authorization bearer token. And so this is what the output is going to look like for us. And it's going to say what's running and what's stopped, basically. And that's it. So perhaps we can also use the management API to interact with an agent. So this is what you would run to interact with the agent. And this is all one line, by the way. There's no spaces or anything between this. It just happens to be a very long line. But so this is the, these commands have a space between them, and then there's a space right here. And then you have that full thing, that's one line, and then space, so on and so forth. So that's what that looks like. And then this is going to give us the information about the agent, which is going to be worker number 2 and version, name, yada, 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 right? So Wazuh agent 1, so on and so forth. And now using the API console could be done through the GUI, through the actual web portal. So we can go to tools category with the heading at the top, of course, and then tools API console. And it'll open this up right here for us. And it looks very similar to a command line, doesn't it? So there you go. And so it's awesome because it seems to be that literally with one click, he was able to load all of the things that he needed into the output, which is super freaking useful. So you'll be greeted with a few sample queries. Simply select the line and press the green run button, and it'll show what is available like the output below. So that was great. So what is the name of the standard Linux tool that we can use to make requests to the Wazuh management server? And that is curl. What HTTP method would we use to retrieve information? That's called get. What method would we use to perform an action on Wazuh management server API? So this is odd. So if it's not get, I mean, it could be post, but it's supposed to be 3 letters. So the only other thing is put. And put is used to update something, and they said perform an action, which I guess could be put, whatever. But that's kind of neither here nor there. So navigate to the API console. So let's go here. We're going to click back onto this thing, click on here, go to tools, and then we're going to go to the API console. So there's that. And then use the API console to find the Wazuh's server version. You'll need to add the V prefix to the number for this answer. For example, V1.23, okay. And so the hint says get manager info. That's what the command is that we look for, and this is the command right here. So we're gonna do that, and it should give us our version, which is version 4.2.5. And so we're gonna copy that, go back here, and paste that, and just like that, we have completed the API task of Wazuh. Very cool. Moving on to generating reports with Wazuh. Wazuh features a reporting module that allows you to view a summarized breakdown of events, and we can go under, so Wazuh modules, and then it's going to be security events. That's where it's going to be, and then it's going to show us, and then we're going to create generate report on the far right. And if it's grayed out, there is no report data, so you can't generate anything. You'll either need to you will either need to change your query or extend the date range. Okay, fair enough. And the report may take a couple of seconds to a few minutes to generate, depending on the amount of data. After allowing some time, we'll navigate to the report overview dashboard within Wazuh, and then we can go into Wazuh management and reporting, and that's where that would be. And the report overview lists all generated reports. To download a report, we can click the save icon, so simple enough. This is going to be, this looks like the security events report. This is kind of what it looks like. And so use the Wazuh reports feature to generate a report of an agent, and navigate to Wazuh report dashboard and analyze the report. What is the name of the agent that has generated the most alerts? So let's go here. We're going to go here, and we're going to go to modules, and we're going to go to security events, and we are going to generate a report. I guess we're going to do it for agent 1. Let's make sure it finishes loading. Okay, very good. So agent 1 generating reports, and that should take a couple of seconds to a minute. Okay, that one finished pretty quickly, and we'll click on this one to see if we can do THMDC01, and then we'll have that run a little bit, and we're going to generate a report. I mean, just from the desktop or from the visual, it seemed that agent 1 had more time, so or it had more items show up right here. So that was the kind of the issue with this particular case, and it said that there was an error that popped up at the bottom right, but it's saying that it's generating the PDF document. So is it working or not? So it says go to the analyze reports, and that's management status and reports reporting. So while this is running, I wonder if I could go to management reporting. This is agent 1 report, and let's go back to see if we can get that second report from THMDC. And we do want this report, so let's click on generate report one more time. Okay, no error message this time. Very good. Now we have both reports created, and so now we can go to management and status reports reporting, and then from here we can look at these things, and it seems like we have to actually download them, so I don't think we can just view them from here. So I'm going to download that report, and it's going to show me right here. And so we have what we have: the top 5 rule groups, which is OSEC and SCA. At the top right here, it doesn't give us the number of stuff generated. We can look further down, and these are the different alerts and the requirements and alert groups and the alerts and so on and so forth. And so what do we have here? The description, level count. So this is the count of this. It seems generic. Doesn't seem a lot. So we have SCA count 73, and then OSEC count number 3. So that's basically it. So this is the one for, what is it, agent 02, Wazuh agent 02. Oh, agent 02 was the DC controller. That's what it is. So if I click on agent 01, it's going to show us a completely different thing. And if we actually go back to agent 02 and go to the top of the page, it should say domain controller as the name, right? Yeah, THMDC1. So this is the domain controller report, and now we have actual agent 001. And so if we go all the way down to look at the numbers here, the numbers for this are significantly higher. And this was already visible on the portal on the desktop. So we can see that obviously this is the one that's generating the most reports. So what's his name again? It's agent 001. I think that's what his name is. Let's just copy this and do copy. And we're going to go here and we're going to paste this mofo right there, and voila. And that is our answer. So not bad, pretty cool. It's nice that it opened it inside the browser and we didn't have to download it and open it inside a PDF editor and all that stuff. So, okay, moving to the last piece right here, which is loading some sample data so that we can analyze some sample data with Wazuh. And here is the sample data. So the management server came with sample data bundled with the installation that can be loaded. We have not enabled this by default to improve the performance of the server. However, if you wish to import much more data to showcase the extendability, follow these steps. So open Wazuh, click over to settings, click sample data, and add the data. So we can do that. And then once we add it, look at that, 48,000 events. So that's much bigger. And so this is kind of what it will look like. And then we can modify the date. So you need to play with a date range. The absolute minimum required to show the sample will need to be at least 7 days, and refresh the dashboard. And then I've imported the sample data. I played around with the sample data. Those are really the only things that are available here. So I'm just going to go here and go here, and it's under tools, I think, was it? Or settings? Sample data. There we go. And we're going to sample auditing, sample threat detection. Which one should we do? Let's do security information. Why not? We're going to add the data, and let's see how long this takes to load. All right, that was fairly quick. So now we can go back to the modules, and let's go to security events. And we have THMDC01 that had 79 events previously. And so now it has 3,000 events. Look at that. It's a lot of stuff going on. And so the top 5 alerts have to do with Apache, attempt to access forbidden directory, multiple web server 400 error codes, the web server 400 error code, file added to the system, and Windows service startup was changed. So these are the top 5 alerts that showed up. And then we have down here security alerts as well. So rule ID level 5 would be SSH attempt. Level 10, which seems to be really bad, it's multiple authentication failures on SSH. That's pretty severe. Multiple web server error codes with the same source IP. That's also pretty severe. So that's pretty bad. Oh, there's one at the bottom that says SSH brute forcing, trying to get access to the system. That's pretty bad. So it's that's all pretty bad. This is really cool, honestly. I really like the fact that this thing even exists, and it's nice that it's an open source software that essentially anybody can use and configure so that it can manage and kind of secure their endpoints on their system. It's very, very useful. I think this is actually a very cool tool. Apart from its name being Wazuh, and then so we can click on authentication failures just to see the authentication failures, and then we'll see all of this stuff right here. So now these things change too. So SSHD attempt to log in using a non-existent user, maximum authentication attempts needed, multiple authentication failures, brute force trying to get access to the system, authentication failed. So all of that stuff. And that shows over here too. And so we have under the severities, level 10, multiple authentication, brute force trying to get access to the system. You got multiple authentication failures again. You got another multiple authentication or brute force failure. This is pretty crazy that these freaking people have been. I know it's sample data, but it's like, how dare you try to access the system and try to hack us and all that shit. So that was it. That was it for the sample data. And obviously we could do so much more stuff with the sample data. But for the interest of time, I'm going to wrap the room. But I will remind you that this is a free room with tryhackme. So you can go in here and do as much of it as you want and play around as much as you want and learn as much as you want, which is all super useful. So that's it. We just wrapped the room for Wazuh. If you found this information useful, if you found any value from this video, I invite you to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and even drop a comment. All of those things helps the YouTube algorithm to find our channel, to help us expand the community. But also, as an extra win for you, when you have the notification turned on after you subscribe, it notifies you when a new video comes out. And if you're studying to be a security analyst, or if you're studying to be an ethical hacker, then all of these videos will actually be very helpful to your path to becoming who you want to be. These are all relevant information and all relevant tools that you're going to end up using in your journey as a security analyst or an ethical hacker. So I invite you to like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and even drop a comment, just so you can, number one, you'll be helping us grow and you'll be helping the YouTube algorithm, but more importantly, you'll be getting notified the next time a video comes out. And that's a win-win for everybody. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite system and network attacker. And if no one else loves you, Hank loves you. Peace, love, and chicken grease. I will see you in the next room. Later.